Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14 here to recap SEC basketball games from Tuesday night. Got three to talk about. The Brandon Miller situation also popped up. Since we last did a video, we will talk about that at the end. But Blake, first we're going to Columbia, Missouri, where your client, Dennis Gates, scored a big victory last night. This is how well you know your client. You're watching the game. I'm in the car. You called me. You talked me through the end of regulation. You said this is exactly what Dennis Gates is about to draw up. You called it to a T. Kobe Brown didn't hit the layup, but Missouri did survive in overtime, so there was that. Big night for your client, Blake. Congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the play coming, and they ran it well, I thought. And even if they didn't, they got a man wide open under the basket and didn't convert. But yeah, they found a way to win it in overtime. As you can tell, my voice. No, this wasn't from yelling at the TV on the missed layup for Missouri, or yelling at Dennis Gates. I would never do that. But my voice is going out again. You guys know this happens like every 3 months at this point, I think.
It's either my internet or your voice. My internet is on today, so that meant your voice had to go.
Yeah, something had to do it. No, I mean, I told you, you were driving back, and I said, look, if this game goes to overtime, I don't like Missouri's chances, because I just think Mississippi State is, a team that, as we said, rebounding wise, they're just, and that was the thing about this game. It was never that one-sided. Like, this was a pretty even game from a rebounding standpoint. Now Mississippi State got 13 offensive rebounds. I thought Mississippi State's issue was very clear in this game, especially down the stretch. I don't think on any planet should this Mississippi State team take 28 threes. I just don't think that should happen. And I don't care if they're open or not. I'm just saying, like, their advantage was to get the ball to Lou Smith, and Diarra had fouled out. I thought, I know Diarra, for some people, like, he's not all the way there yet, but you can definitely see that this guy is developing. And I think that, that's kind of one of those exciting things, I think, for Missouri fans. Look, he had 5 points in 17 minutes and fouled out. But I think you can see the wheels are turning a bit in terms of, like, his development. And so that was another aspect. But I just thought for Mississippi State, there was no reason, basically, they should have done anything other than get the ball to Lou Smith and let him either try to make a shot or get to the free throw line. And, again, it's not to knock the other guys, because obviously you have to have other guys that make shots, but 28 threes is too many for this team. Remember, this is the team, and it's not just my opinion. They're shooting 28% from three this year. That's 359th nationally. So that's just my thing. I thought they shot too many threes, and in close games like that, again, go to your strengths. And to me, that was just pounding the ball inside, trying to get an offensive rebound. And I just thought they kind of got away from that in some of those key possessions. But you also can't take anything away from Missouri, who just happened to make the plays. There just were some big shots down the stretch. I think it was Nick Honor made a big three. I thought Trey Gomillion was kind of like the MVP of the game. Now, certainly, you can look at some of the other guys, but Gomillion just he wound up being in the right spot at the right time. It seemed like a lot. He got 8 points, 10 rebounds. I've said that before, right? When he was not playing, I said he's kind of one of those guys that I think when he's on the floor, he gives them it's not going to be just wow you stats, but, like, I think just the importance of having him on the floor. I thought he was a key part of that last night. And that was a huge game. As we said, going in for both teams, that's a huge game, because Mississippi State, now, where I'm going. They're 6-9 in the league. I think they got to get to 9-9. So that means they got to win out with A&M, South Carolina at home, and at Vanderbilt. They can win out with that schedule. But, for Missouri, they were trending in the wrong direction in the computers and all of that. And so, not that this win really did a whole lot for them there, but now I think you're 20-8, 8-7 in the league. You don't want to lose one of these last three, right? Because you're at Georgia, at LSU, home against Ole Miss. But I think you at least give yourself a little wiggle room now to where if you were to add that first blemish on your resume, as we said, knock on wood, Missouri fans, once again, beyond, all your losses right now are quad one. If you were to lose one of these three, that's going to hurt your seeding, but I don't think it drops you out by any means. So that was a huge win from that, standpoint. And so, yeah, just a big win for Missouri. 20 wins in Dennis Gates' first season. Yeah, it's quite a run. So,
Yeah, I think Missouri goes 2-2, and we'll do bracketology tomorrow. I think Missouri goes 2-2, it's in, and I think State goes 3-0, it's in. And I still think I wonder if maybe State's got a chance at 8-10. I'll have to do a deeper dive on that later, but
they got a chance.
I know people wonder that after games, right?
They have a chance, but again, we're just trying to do this within the scope of the regular season. Okay, obviously anything can happen in the SEC tournament, but we don't know the matchups, we don't know the pairings, so we can't actually tell you.
We don't know how the committee is going to consider it after last year either.
Right, and we just don't. We can't tell you that Mississippi State still has a chance because what if they get, it's like this is once you get to the tournament, right? Well, what if they get paired up with I don't know, use Vanderbilt as an example, a team that's not currently projected in the field. What if Georgia upsets two people and all of a sudden you're playing Georgia? Well, those wins don't do anything for you, right?
Right.
So it's like we can't say that with any sort of, definitive answer right now. So we can only go on the regular season. Anything can happen in the tournament, but like you said, how much that's valued, who knows after last year. So
Tennessee and A&M played a thriller. It played out exactly the way you and I said it was going to play out at the foul line. Tennessee down a couple men, jumps out to a 9-0 lead, but the Vols just couldn't generate enough offense consistently. Your man crushed Julius Marble, had another game. Wade Taylor was great again. Was he 16 of 17 from the foul line? Yeah, he was. I just looked it up. Crazy. A&M keeps rolling. A&M wasn't really on the bubble anyway, but I think last night, and again, we'll cover this in bracketology tomorrow, I think A&M could lose out, including the SEC tournament, probably, and still get in at this point. Tennessee's a lock too, but what did you take away from this one?
Before we get there, Chris, let's give some love to our guy.
I was going to ask, right?
Who?
This is, if you want to know how Blake celebrated last night.
This is not true. This is not an actual picture, folks.
What?
But no, we got to give some love to our guy, Mr. who always comes up after the game with these very creative photos, if you will. So just want to make sure it gets the love there for that. But anyways, beyond that, so A&M and Tennessee, yeah. At this point, I know people get frustrated with it, but this was like the ultimate case of two teams that other fan bases get so frustrated with, and that is Tennessee and Texas A&M because of their physicality. And it's like, they don't call fouls here for this team or that team, but they do call fouls on this. Well, A&M got to the free throw line 34 times. Like, once again, and I know there's a lot of fan bases who are not happy about that. But like you said,
we knew this was coming. Well, and look, Tennessee got look, Alabama fans last week were complaining Tennessee had been a little handsy and Thompson Bowling Arena and got away with some stuff, and so it goes on somebody else's court and it gets this has been the way it's been forever. I'm not saying it's right. I wish it was a little more consistent. I wish what building you're in didn't have so much impact on how a game is called, but college basketball has been this way since before either of us were born.
This is what A&M does. I mean, like we said, it's what they do. They are right. They're 0.1 behind UT Rio Grande Valley in terms of the national standing of free throw attempts, 25.1 per game. So it's just what they do. They got there 34 times. Wade Taylor outshot Tennessee from the free throw line. Like you said, 16 of 17. Tennessee went 10 of 14. Julius Marble almost did it, 9 of 13 from the free throw line. So, yeah, I think I may have said, I don't remember, it all runs together, but I did say I thought this was like a Julius Marble type game. I think, meaning he was going to have to be really important for A&M to win this one, and he was. I mean, again, 21 points, 9 rebounds. That's something I think for Marble, is just to add more of that consistent rebounding. that's a big part of the equation, I think, for this team, especially if they're going to go deep into the tournament, which I think they can. But yeah, I mean, you could see the frustration for Rick Barnes. It's sometimes we can see that in some games maybe more, but he was there. There was obvious frustration there. Vescovy just felt like he was. Look at Vescovy's line, and it's not bad, right? The guy almost gets a triple double if he had 3 more assists, but it's finding that groove. Tennessee goes 9 of 31 from 3, 29%. Because again, A&M's the kind of team that's going to force you to take more of those. No Julian Phillips, no Josiah Jordan-James again. I think that's the kind of game, especially, right? You think about A&M and how they play and fouls. You'd like to have 2 other guys like that on the floor. But yeah, I mean, it's another frustrating loss for Tennessee because I thought they got off to a good start. A&M made their run. Tennessee was able to get right there towards the end. But by the way, this game lasted 2 hours and 33 minutes, which that shouldn't shock anybody.
I think they play baseball games faster than that now.
I mean, A&M games have got to, if you're talking about a team by length of game this season, they got to be at the number 1 in the SEC just because of how many free throws are shot. So, yeah, but I know there's frustration for Tennessee fans right now. They're not happy. The good news, you're not moving in the net. You're still number 3 in the net this morning at 20-8. So
I think Congress passed a law that Tennessee's not allowed to move in the net, right?
No, they're not. They're not moving anywhere in the net. So, yeah. So I mean, A&M, as I said long ago, this team. Forget what you thought about A&M 2 months ago, 3 months ago. This is a different team. There's a lot of people out there who keep saying, well, A&M's a fraud or just wait. They're going to win. They're 13-2 now in the SEC. Why are we knocking this team? Why is anyone knocking this team if you are at this point? They're 13-2. And I know what the knock is going to be. It's going to be, well, what happens when they don't get free throws called? Or they get fouls called and they get the free throw line? Well, that's a fair assessment, but you can say that about any team in America, wherever their strength is. You can say, what happens if they don't make threes? Or what happens if they don't do it? Like, it's the same thing. But, I mean, it's just, again, this is how they play. They are an aggressive team. They're not going to sit back and shoot a lot of threes. But guess what? They shouldn't. They should try to attack and get a foul on literally every possession. I put the stat out there last night. Tennessee had 6 fouls in the first 2 minutes and like 24 seconds of the second half. 6 fouls. Some of those were legit fouls. Like the majority of them, I thought, were fouls. And so, it's just one of those things because that's what A&M did. They attacked. And I think, again, you've got to look at this team now as a second weekend NCAA tournament type team. Like they have the pieces. They have the confidence. They're a good rebounding team offensively. They get those second chance looks. What I like most about Texas A&M is they do what they do best. They don't try to do anything else. We talked about Mississippi State a minute ago. Why is Mississippi State shooting a lot of threes? That's not what they do well. A&M is pretty disciplined in that regard. They continue to kind of attack where they attack best. And I think that's just, again, that's to me a sign of a team that has learned from their mistakes and, are putting it all together at the right time. And, now, combine those two teams together. A&M goes to Mississippi State on Saturday. That's the biggest game of the year now for Mississippi State. That's a game too that I think you'll see some free throws in, just based on how those two teams play. But yeah, it's a huge win for A&M because now it gives them 6 quad 1 wins. Meanwhile, for Tennessee, they've lost 5 of 7. But yeah, the Vols are just they've got some issues right now. So,
well, let's be fair. Tennessee played without Josiah Jordan-James. Not that you weren't being fair. I'm sorry, I didn't phrase that well.
I know what you're saying.
And without Julian Phillips, and that's what they've been without those guys for a week or two now. Josiah Jordan-James, what he missed, was it 15 games? Something like that, then came back, and now he's out. Like, how does this resolve? Do those kids, especially Josiah Jordan-James, do they get them healthy again for any stretch, you think?
I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm still the opinion they're better when he's on the floor. So if they're going to get back on track, they need him. It's just my opinion. I think he does so many things well. So, yeah, I think he's right now to me he's a missing piece. But so is Julian Phillips. We don't have to we're not going to discount him either because we talked about it, he's really come on and at times and yeah, they need both of them right now. So luckily for Tennessee, South Carolina can probably help you fix some of your issues. But then again, as we said, Carolina's actually playing pretty well on the road right now. And Tennessee beat them by 40-something the first time. But, maybe it's a little different now. But then they got Arkansas at home and they go to Auburn. So it's not the worst finishing stretch for Tennessee. They can actually build some momentum here heading into the SEC tournament. But I think the frustration is more of what you expect to see with Tennessee at this point with this team. Because you saw it in the first 21 games where they go 18-3. You saw it against Alabama. But it's just, hey, tournament's not going to be played in Knoxville, right? So, I mean, that's something to think about. Like but I also don't want to discount the opponent either, and I think that's important, right? Because a lot of people have lost at A&M.
Well, it's not like Tennessee's losing to dogs lately, right?
Well, they're not getting blown out or anything.
2 buzzer beaters, right? It's been,
yeah. But it's the expectation that's been set,
right?
The expectation is that they do this every year, right? And that's the expectation is that this is just what they do under Rick Barnes, and fair or unfair, that's what people think, and so. Because they can look at this stretch and say, well, they lost 5 of 7 now, which is true. Whether they've lost them close or not, they have lost 5 of 7 games. And so, yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. I'm curious where Tennessee fans are at right now. I know where some of them kind of sit on this team, but I think it's the frustration in knowing that you are really, several plays away, from the Vanderbilt game, Missouri game. Because think about how different the conversation is right now. If they had won 4 in a row, beat Vanderbilt, beat Missouri, and then lose back-to-back road games, Kentucky and A&M, so what? It's like, so what? That's that's a tough part of your schedule. But the fact is, they lost the other 2 games, and they got beat by 13 in Florida. So it's like that's what makes you kind of reset your thinking on Tennessee a bit. So,
well, and to rewind in case people didn't see our earlier video, like the games that Tennessee lost to Vandy, Missouri. Back-to-back, very improbable sequences of events. You throw in injuries to 2 starters. You throw in tough road trips. It has just been the perfect disastrous storm for Tennessee right now. And I think if you hit the reset button, you get them healthy. They still have issues. The shooting thing makes me very nervous.
Yeah.
I think both of us picked Tennessee a lot further in the tournament last year than Tennessee actually went, and it was it was the same things that are undoing Tennessee right now to some degree that were issues. And that's going to make me nervous no matter what Tennessee's situation is health-wise. But it has also been a little bit of an outlier, the recent results and the injuries and all that meshed together.
Well, good news for Tennessee is that people are already picking them to lose in the NCAA tournament in the first round. Don't even know their opponent yet, so they can at least go in knowing. But how many years does that happen? I feel like Tennessee's always a popular pick to get upset because and people use the Rick Barnes history. And again, fair or unfair, that's how people use it. So I tend to think they'll finish strong though because of their schedule. It won't be easy, but I feel like they've got to get back on track, and maybe South Carolina is the right team to do that against. So,
speaking of getting on track with the right teams, I feel like we called this about a week ago. The Must Bus has turned into a roller coaster, Blake. Let's look at the last month or so. I mean, they lose 4 in a row. They get cupcake wins over Ole Miss, LSU at home. They go to Baylor, they lose, they play well. They then beat A&M, South Carolina, Kentucky, the last one being on the road, and we're going, here comes the Must Bus. Then they lose to Mississippi State and A&M. Nick Smith comes back in the middle of that, So we're just all confused. But we said, hey, look, Florida with no Castleton, Georgia's been awful the last month. That is your chance to try some things and get right. And guess what? Nick Smith Jr. gets 26 points last night. They just boat raced Georgia. They got Alabama coming up in a weird spot, although that's on the road. A lot remains to be seen, but it feels like things are starting to set up a little bit for Arkansas.
Yeah, and I think Muss has gotten the message, and he's not listening to people that tell you that scoring margin doesn't matter, because yeah,
15 and
they
Ken
beat
Palm this morning.
they moved up, I think, 3 spots in the net rankings. Why did they do that against Georgia, a team that's 130s? Because they blew them out. They left no doubt. And so, therefore, there's no confusion with the computers for Arkansas against Georgia. That's that. I'm telling you, and people, again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but this is what you have to do when you're a team that's in Arkansas spot. You have to not just win, you have to take care of business in a very dominant fashion if you want to continue to get that boost against these kind of teams, right? Because look, we always said these kind of games aren't going to do anything for you from wowing your NCAA tournament resume. But if you win convincingly, it will do something for you. And we're seeing that now with some of these net rankings. By the way, I don't think you guys actually saw the video. We did an entire 30-minute power rankings video yesterday that we just completely scrapped because it was awful. And because I'm currently leaning on my chair as Barry is laying right under my feet. I feel like I'm like on a, I don't know what we called it yesterday in the scrap video we did, but like I am like just teetering here. Talk about the roller coaster. Like I'm about to fall out of my chair. If that happens, that'll be an all-time moment here on the channel. But back to the Muss Bus. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is Arkansas had these 2 games. They're must win, but they did it in convincing fashion. So that's good. Now, I don't know if you're going to do it in convincing fashion with the last 3 because you're at Alabama, at Tennessee, home against Kentucky. But of course, the biggest talking point is what? Nick Smith has now played 29 minutes, and what did he play before that? 32 minutes against Florida, 29 against Georgia. He finally did what I think people thought I was crazy about when I said that, don't worry, this guy's going to hit some threes eventually and open up the offense a little bit from the perimeter. And he did that against Georgia, 5 of 8. I mean, you've said all along that you have to remember the committee's going to factor in Nick Smith not playing when it comes to seeding Arkansas and figuring out what to do with them when it comes to the tournament. Now that he's back, the ceiling for Arkansas is higher. And it is. I don't think there's any question about that. And we may see that, in these next 3 games. They may go out and go 2-1 in these next 3. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it's possible because I think with him, they can do things offensively that they just could not do before. And so I think that is really something to keep in mind here as we move forward with Arkansas. This is a different team now. And I'm not saying he's going to, go off every night, but the reason the guy is a top 10 draft pick is because of his skills, and everyone else knows it. So the good news, they got some pretty good players around him too that kind of helped carry the load while he wasn't playing, right? So let's not forget that Anthony Black is kind of the similar type guy who will, be making a lot of money in the NBA. Very good player. And so is Ricky Council. So is Devo Davis. All these guys. So I keep saying it's the rotations. Nick Smith coming back just helps the rotation so much because Muss can do more now. And he can approach things differently on offense. But yeah, for Arkansas, this is a huge 3-game stretch. They're in the tournament. They're probably a 9 seed right now?
9-ish.
9.
Well, here's where I was going to go. You kind of get a double boost with him coming back because you can say, see, we won with him and he got 26. How many more games could we have won given what you just saw Nick Smith do, given what you knew about him when he didn't play for us? And so it's...
Well, look, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 games they've lost by 3 points this season. So of their 9 losses, 4 have come by 3 points or less. So yeah, that's They lost by 6 to Mississippi State, 6 to A&M. So 6 of your 9 losses are by 6 points or less. So like you can that has to mean something to you. And so Arkansas is in a good spot right now. They just I'm not saying they should go 0-3, but because then what happens if you go 0-3, Chris? You're 8-10 in the league.
Right. Well,
so
yeah, they need. I think they just get one and they're in.
Yeah.
I mean, they might be anyway. But look, they lost 6 games without him, and they won.
Yeah.
Let's see. They were 7-6 without him. One of those was against UNC Asheville. Now, some of these weren't very close, but the Missouri game was a 3-point game, and the LSU game, LSU's lone conference win, that was also a 3-point loss. So does Nick Smith Jr. make a 3-point difference? I don't know. I mean, when he hits the floor, somebody else has got to come off, and you factor that in, but I think it's not a crazy argument.
No, that's why I think that, I just think that, that the conference record I still think means something. The committee will say it doesn't, but you still have to factor it in. And this year's SEC specifically, because if we use oh goodness, what do we say? Alabama got in at 8-10. What year was that? 2016,
17-ish, 18-ish.
Let me try to find it. Alabama got in at 8-10 in 2018. So it can be done, and don't think we're going that far to say it can't, but we're just pointing out it's rare when it happens. But remember what happened that year, okay? Now the SEC got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams in, tie the record. So that would be kind of ironic, wouldn't it? So the SEC got 8 teams in that year, but the difference is you had 0 SEC teams other than Alabama below the 8 seed line. So you had a lot of top level teams, right? So it's like this year, can you make that same sell where, Alabama, at least what Alabama had going for it was it had a 3 seed, a 4 seed, a 5 seed, a 6 seed, 2 7 seeds, and an 8 seed ahead of it. Well, this year it's like you got a 1 seed, a 3 seed, and probably a bunch of 8 to 11 seeds. So I think that's why if I was Arkansas, you don't want to put that in the committee's hands, but the boost is getting Nick Smith back because that's going to weigh in. And I think at this point, barring Arkansas losing out and losing the first game of the SEC tournament to a team they shouldn't lose to, I think the Hogs will be fine.
No, not like that people like to simplify things and condense things to sound bites. I mean, nobody ever would do that. But if you wanted to, you could say that Arkansas is 12-3 when Nick Smith plays a game.
Okay.
And one of those 3 losses, he played 4 minutes.
All right. Has he played that many games this season?
We done with Arkansas?
Has Nick Smith played that many games? 12?
Apparently.
I don't think so, man. He hasn't played.
Well, wait. Let me. You know what? I might be wrong because I think he miss some
5, 6. He's only
no. Right. I'm sorry. You know what? I was starting from the UNC Asheville game. I'd forgotten he missed the first few. So he missed it. Okay. Yeah. They did pretty well without him.
He's basically only played. If we take the games out against A&M, played 4 minutes. Troy 6 minutes. He's only played essentially 7 games. So, yeah. A normal workload, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, they lost to Creighton without him early. They did beat San Diego State, but that's also San Diego State was the game. Was that the game Brazil went down, or was that the Troy game? It was close thereafter.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I'd have to look. But anyway, I mean, yeah, recalculate the record as you usually see fit. But
I think Arkansas is going to be fine. So.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I think it's going to be hard to leave Arkansas. Even 8-10, okay, your 3 losses are all the teams that's going to the tournament. If Arkansas were to lose out, the computers love them. Everybody knows the talent.
Computer loves them. That's all that matters.
So. Right. Okay, Blake. Now on to the Brandon Miller situation. As I'm sure everybody watching this video knows, news came out yesterday, rather, involving Brandon Miller and his involvement in this situation. And we were asked on Twitter for our takes and things like that. If you've watched Blake and I for a while, you know our personalities. We are not hot take people. We like to take some time to take in the situations, let them marinate, and then offer our takes. You don't see me out there tweeting a lot. This is a very complicated and heavy situation. There's a capital murder. You have a woman dead. You have a kid growing up without a mom. You have a lot of people involved with this by association, guilty or innocent. That's just the way this has played out. I've been in the media for a long time. I've covered stories. I have seen times where the facts that I knew to be true were not the way they were written in the media. I have seen times where I've had colleagues that were not necessarily always interested in the full truth. So with those things as your backdrop, we're always going to be very careful and cautious when we make comments. And offering things in the moment, I don't think is always very helpful because your takes and ideas are always not fully baked, which is why Blake and I chose to make our statement on this video and handle it accordingly. We have a justice system in America. It is responsible for sorting these things out. From everything I know of the situation, it has been in the hands of the University of Alabama and the Tuscaloosa Police Department. And from everything I know of the situation that I've been told by people I know that are connected to it, things have been handled appropriately. I think all we hope for is to wish for justice in this case, whatever form that takes. We have a justice system in America to handle that. It is set up appropriately. Prayers for the family, prayers for everybody involved, and may justice happen in this case.
Yeah, I don't have much. I think it's, whoever was directly involved should be held accountable. I don't care who it is. If that's where things get to with the facts, then that's what should happen. There should be justice for the victim. Like you said, it's a young woman taken tragically, now has a son that grows up without a mother. We should never lose sight of that in all of this. In the entire discussion, that should always be at the top of mind. And whoever is directly responsible, whoever had involvement, again, directly in what happened, should be held accountable. And that's where the facts need to drive that. And I don't care about rumors. I don't care about opinions. I want to know all the facts. And again, that is where I think hopefully once that happens, once everything comes out, hopefully then again, there is the proper actions taken to ensure that whoever was responsible is held accountable. And like you said, the reason we didn't go into all this on Twitter is because, quite frankly, I think if you were on Twitter yesterday and you saw what that conversation was like, it was not one that I wanted to be involved in. We're not going to sensationalize a young woman's murder and the things that go along with it. So that's all I got.
Yeah. Please keep the families in your prayers. It is an awful situation. Hope and pray there's justice. He is Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. We're Southeastern 14. We'll see you again soon.